Hello everyone and welcome back to another lesson with VLOOKUP. Today on our tutorials on Microsoft Excel, we'll be looking at one of the lookup functions called the vertical lookup or the VLOOKUP. Alright. Now in today's lesson we'll be looking at three examples or we use three examples to be able to understand and also learn how to use the VLOOKUP function. In our first example, as you can see over here, what we are trying to do over here is that we want to look up the revenue figure on specific days. Alright, so we want to set up a VLOOKUP function so that when we type in a specific date, it gives us the revenue that we had on that specific date, and our VLOOKUP is going to be based on these data over here. Okay, so you can see from these data, the transaction ID, date, customer, region, product, unit sold, price, revenue over here, and the sales rep. Now, without the VLOOKUP function, if we are to look up for, let's say, revenue figure on, let's say, 26 December, we have to scroll to 26 December and look up to the corresponding revenue figure, which is over here, right? And if we are dealing with tons of data, that's going to be very tedious or very stressful. So the VLOOKUP function is very, very important in um, situations like this. All right. So we'll go straight to our VLOOKUP function. So in this instance, let's say we are looking up 27th September 2024. All right, we want to know the revenue figure for 27th September 2024. So I'll go ahead, as always, my equal to sign, then VLOOKUP. Then I'll open my bracket. Now the lookup value. So the lookup value is the value that we want to search, okay, which is the day. All right, and I hit F4 to lock it. Then I select my table array. Alright. Now one thing you have to take or keep in mind is that the VLOOKUP function always searches to the right. Alright, the right of the lookup value. So you have to keep that in mind. So I'll select my table array. I also hit F4 to lock it. Alright. Then now I have to select my column index number. Alright, so which column are we looking at? Or are we looking at the revenue figure from which is column? So we can count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so column 7, then comma. So am I looking at an approximate match or an exact match? So in this instance, I want an exact match. So I can type false, or can put equals. Now, the exact match, as you can see over here, the value of the first column of the table must be sorted in ascending order. Alright, before you use the approximate match. And even in that instance, if the lookup value is not even in the column, it might give us a wrong figure. Okay, so in this instance, I want to use the exact match, which is false, so you can just put 0. I close my bracket and I hit enter. Alright, now in this instance, let's go to our data and look. So I just use this date over here so that we can have a feel of it. So let me highlight it. So with this one, you can see that our revenue figure over here, 8,576 as written over here. Now let's use a different date. So let's say we want to use 26 December. Alright, so immediately I type the date 26 December 2024 and I get a revenue figure over here. Now let's take an instance we where the date isn't there. So where we don't have the date, it returns and it is not available. Alright. So whenever every lookup functions look through the table array or the lookup array, and what we are looking at isn't available, it returns empty. So we keep that in mind. Alright, now let's move to our next example. Alright, so this one, let me go to the 27/09/2024. Okay, you can see it beautifully brought up over here. Now in this example too, example 2. Now in this example also, we want to look up the rest of the data over here, the date, the column, the region, product, unit sold, unit price, revenue, and sales based on the transaction ID that we enter over here. Now we know that the transaction ID over here in most sales transactions are also generated, okay? Or even if we enter it, they are unique to every customer. So one thing we can do over here is that we can use a data validation over here so that we can get a drop down list over here for the transaction ID since we have the list over here already. Then with that we can just choose from it and it returns the value over here for us, the values over here for us. Better still, we can store type, but to be on the safer side of entering let's say wrong transaction ID, the data validation is very important. So my data validation, I hold my alt A maybe, then my data validation window pops up. Then with this, I have a list, okay? So I have a list, I select all the list, okay, you can see them over here, alright, and I hit okay. Now immediately I do that, you can see that I've created a data validation over here, so I have the list, the transaction ID list over here. So now let's say I select C0149. Now I want to look up the values of the date, customer, and the other headings over here. So I go straight to the point of equal to VLOOKUP. Now my lookup value is the transaction ID. Alright, I hit F4 to lock it. Then my table array. Now I select everything. I also hit F4 to lock it. Now my column index number, okay, my column index number. So right now I'm looking at the column for date through to sales rep. So that will be from column 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, and I can close my curly bracket. Now in this instance, I'm also looking at an exact match. So I hit 0 and I hit enter. Now you can see that immediately I hit enter, everything over here autofills for us using the VLOOKUP function. So let's see what happens if I change it. So let's say I change it to T016 and it also changes accordingly. Alright. So that's how we also use the VLOOKUP function in this instance. Okay. Alright. So our next example that you'll be looking at, so still on VLOOKUP. So this is our example 3. Now in this instance, we want to use the VLOOKUP function to look up the customers, right? Customers whose transactions ID are here. So we have the transaction ID and we don't know the customers that we want to look up the customers that bear those transaction ID. But we already have the customer data over here. Alright, so you can see customers over here. So we look it up in this data. So over here also we type our equal to VLOOKUP. Then lookup into bracket. My lookup value is my transaction ID. Right. Now here I hit my F4 3 times to lock only the column. Alright, comma. Then my table array. I select my table array here and I hit F4 to lock it. Okay. Then my column index is also in this table array, which will be let me go up, which will be this which will be 3. Alright, so column 3. Alright, then an exact match, so 0, and I hit enter. Daily I hit enter, you can see I get a customer name for transaction 001 Jason Arnold. So transaction 001, you can see Jason Arnold over here. So you can come down here, double tap to fill out the rest of the column, the customer's name. Okay, so this is how we can also use the VLOOKUP function. Alright, so thank you very much for today and see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.